Okay, good morning everybody. So this is a video record for 11 STEM D and for 11 ABMA because 11 STEM E might not be able to attend in my class, so I would just be creating video for you guys. Okay, so our topic is about exogenous process on the earth. When we say exogenous, from the word external or um, external, meaning to say this process happens on the surface of the earth. So this is the process that happened in our surface of the earth. So these are the natural occurrence in which that leaves significant changes in landscape and the ecosystem area. So an example of an exogenous process is weathering, in which there is changes in our land masses. There is change in the body of rock. So weathering is an example of exogenous process because it happens on the surface of the earth. Okay, so we have different types of exogenous process. So we have weathering, erosion, mass wasting, and sedimentation. First is weathering. So, before we go to weathering, let us identify the difference between weather and climate. When we say climate, it is basically a general pattern of weather. So, it is a general pattern of weather in which it is from a long period of time. For example, the four seasons. So, we have autumn, winter, summer, and spring. So, those are the four seasons. And four season is an example of what is an example of climate. So climate, again, it is a long pattern of the environment of an area. For example, in the Philippines, we only have two seasons. So we don't have four seasons, but we do have two seasons. So what are the two seasons? We have rainy and dry season. So as of the moment, the season for this month, which is October, is rainy season. Okay? So, it is a general pattern that happened in the Philippines. Next is we have weather. When we say weather, it is basically the state of atmosphere at a particular time or place. So, it is a short period of time. So, it is not permanent, meaning to say, for example, nagkaroon ng typhoon sa Isabela, that is not permanent. So, hindi naman laging bumabagyo sa area na yon. So, weather is basically a state of atmosphere that an example of this is typhoon na kung saan in a short period of time lang siya na makaka-experience ka ng pag-ulan sa kamatinding hangin. Okay? So, we have different kinds of weathering. So, when we say weathering, we already discussed this one in rock cycle, right? So weathering plays a very important role in the creation of sediments, and that sediment will be sedimentary rock. So weathering plays a very important role in our rock cycle. So what is weathering ba? Weathering is what we call the disintegration of rocks by the materials or this is the disintegration of rocks, soils, and minerals by water, by wind, and by ice. So those natural things are the ones that destroy one rock. Okay, they can destroy a rock. So we have two types of weathering. We have the physical and the chemical weathering. So first is the physical weathering. When we say physical weathering, it is basically the breaking of rocks by mechanical force. Meaning to say, it can either be so much heat or so much coldness that causes the breaking of rock. It doesn't involve any chemicals or elements, but it only involves mechanical force. Okay, so the types of physical weathering are the following. So first, we have the frost weathering. When we say frost weathering, this refers to the freezing freezing or cold temperature. Because of the cold temperature, what happened to our rocks? The tendency is because of being so cold or sobrang lamig ng temperature natin, ang nangyayari sa mga rocks ay nagbe-break or nagdi-disintegrate because nagkakaroon ng expansion and contraction. So this frost weathering happens in a cold area such as Mount Everest. So ayan. So the rocks are thawed by or they are freezed and causing it to disintegrate. So, nagkakaroon siya ng cracks. Next, we have block disintegration. When we say block disintegration, this is the process or this is caused by heating and cooling at the same time. So, when we say heating, there is expansion of rock. And then, we have cooling. Cooling causes the rock to contract. So, heating, after that, cooling, expansion, and then contraction, which caused breaking of rock. Okay? So, again, after heating, lumamig. After ng heating, nag-expand. After that, lumamig, nag-contract. Because of that, nagkaroon ng disintegration of rock. That's why these are called block disintegration because the big blocks of rocks are changed by smaller blocks. Okay? Because of the sudden changes of temperature. Next, exfoliation. So, exfoliation is basically the stripping of the outer layers of rock due to intense heating. So, this is an example of exfoliation. As you can see, what happened to the bodies of rock? It peels. So, the outer layer are being ripped off or nagbabalat yung outer layer ng rock. Again, because of the intense heat. Because of the intense heat, the rock tends to exfoliate or magbalat. Next, let us go to chemical weathering. So, chemical weathering is the process in which it broke down. The rocks are breaking apart because of chemical reaction. So, these are the types of chemical weathering. First is the oxidation. From the word oxygen. So, oxidation is the process in which the rocks are breaking apart or reacts to oxygen. So, an example of this is ferrous rocks. So, these are ferrous rocks. Metal always reacts to oxygen. And that process is what we call oxidation. When metals such as iron is exposed to oxygen, what will happen? It will form rust. Mangangalawang siya. Same goes to this ferrous rock. This ferrous rock has a component of metal element which can be very reactive to oxygen. That's why this ferrous rock reacts to oxygen, causing it to have a rusty color. So, that is oxidation in ferrous rock. Next, we have carbonation. When we say carbonation, this is the process in which it involves the formations of the various types of carbonates in a rock. So, we have here a rock that reacts to carbonic acid. So, this is a rock that has been created or it reacts to carbonic acid. So, when they are exposed to it, there's a chance that they might be able to dissolve or they can break down. Next, we have hydration from the word hydrate, meaning to say it involves the absorption of water. So, when the rock absorbs too much water, it can also lead to disintegration. So this is an example of a rock that has changed in appearance. So again, hydration, meaning to say there is too much absorption of water to this rock, causing it to change its volume. It can either expand. When they expand too much because of the water, it can lead to disintegration. So again, hydration is the process of chemical weathering in which there is too much absorption of water to the rock, causing the rock to break. Next is we have solution. So solution is the process in which some of the minerals in rocks are directly dissolved in water. So these are the rocks or minerals that can be dissolved to water. So we have minerals which is what we call effervescence. So they have the ability to dissolve. So not all of them, not all rocks can be dissolved to water, but some of the rocks may able to dissolve in water naman. Next is we have erosion. When we say erosion kasi, this is the process in which the small pieces of rocks, such as the soil, the sediments, are being transported to one place to another. That is what we call erosion. So they can either be transported by water, wind, water, or ice. So again, erosion is the process in which it happens on the earth's surface. It happens when the sediments that has been created in the weathering will be drawn or will be transported away from one location to another by wind, water, and ice. So we have types or examples of erosion. First is the wind erosion. From the word itself, wind, meaning to say the debris or the soils are being transported by wind. So they are carried by wind. An example of a wind erosion is desert. So desert is a dry area in which there are tiny particles of soils and sand, and which it can easily be carried by wind. So again, desert is an area which is dry and it is considered to be very sandy. So that's why when there are winds that blow, it can blow or it can transport the sand from one place to another. So that is an example of wind erosion. Next, we have sheet erosion. So sheet erosion is a thin layer of soil because the surface runoff and rain. For example, we have heavy rain, malakas na pag-ulan. So pag malakas ang pag-ulan, anong nangyayari sa outermost layer natin? Lumalambot siya. And that material, when it is soft, lumambot na siya, what will happen? It can easily be eroded by water, causing it to live like this. So, natatanggal yung top layer niya. Okay, next, let us go to the gully erosion. Gully erosion is basically the removal of soil because of the presence of water. It can either create canals or drainage. So this is an example of gully erosion. If you have seen this one, this is caused by a massive rainfall or a flash flood. So napupunuan ng tubig itong mga land natin, and probably this area is so soft, ang nangyari ay naanod na yung mga debris or yung mga soil, causing it to create a gullies or a canals. It is very big. Okay? Next, let us go to the rill erosion. So, the rill erosion is basically the removal of soil, same as the gully, but the difference between them is that it is smaller compared to the gullies. Sa gullies kasi, it is made by water, flash flood. Same goes with rill. So, rill erosion is also created by water as well. But the difference between them, sa rill erosion kasi, they create small or tiny channels. Sa galleys kasi, it is big channels or big canals. Channels. It is made out of big canals. Dito kasi, tiny canals naman to. Next, we have mass weathering. When we say mass weathering, it is the removal of soil, debris, and mud. Again, mass weathering refers to the movement of materials and the removal of the debris. So we have examples of mass wasting. We have mud flow. What is mud flow? We all know if the type of muddy soil is exposed to water, what do you think will happen? You will be watery consistency. So the mud will be a watery consistency which can cause mud flow. Mud flow is more quicker compared to the other debris that might be falling of water. Kasi nga, liquid is fluid, meaning to say it has the ability to flow. So when the mud is incorporate to our water, that's the time na yung mud na yon hindi siya magiging thick consistency, it would be watery consistency in which it has the ability to flow now. Next, we have debris fall. So debris fall are the large amount of sediment. For instance, we have mountains. The mountains has debris and also some mountains are soily, malupa. So the debris when there are earthquake from our mountain, nangyayari is nalalaglag yung mga debris. So those are the piece of rock caused by too much tension because of the earthquake. Next is what we call the slump. The slump is also similar to the mud flow. The difference between them is that it is slow movement of soil. Sa mud kasi, mabilis silang mag-flow kasi nga, that soil is mud. Ito kasi, hindi siya medyo mud. So, it is slower compared to the movement of the mud flow. Okay, next is what we call the sedimentation. When we say sedimentation, also sedimentation plays a very important role in the creation of sedimentary rocks. So let us revisit or let us re-know what is the meaning of sedimentation in the exogenous process. When we say sedimentation, it is basically the accumulation of materials, of soil, rock, fragments, and soil articles setting on the ground. For example, we have here the water. So the materials are being eroded by wind, ice, or water. So the sediments are here. They are already setting on the ground or on the ocean. Because of the sediments are setting on the ground, this is the time they will now undergo the process of lithification in which they will be compacted and cemented together to form sedimentary rock. Okay, so again, that is the topic. So it is very easy for you to understand. So again, those are the exogenous processes. If you're a bit confused, you can play it again and again in order for you to memorize or to master the different types of weathering, the different types of erosion, what is mass wasting, and what is sedimentation. Okay, so I hope you finished this video. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.